it's now tomorrow, and I'm going to just egg wash this. I'm gonna put the pie in first because that gets the oven on and working while I do other stuff. After I put this pie in, I'm gonna start on the banana bread. Once that pie is done, the banana bread will go in. After that's all done, I should be ready with the rye bread, have that go in. And then after all of that, we'll get the apple cages in. Make sure you're brushing nicely. You don't want to have scrambled eggs on top of your pie. We're going to use this egg wash again for the apple cages, so we're just going to wrap this and put this in the fridge, put this in the oven, and move on to our banana bread. Now we're going to start on our banana bread. Put the bananas and the sugar together. Oh, perfect. Just enough. Let's mix these up. Next we'll add in our eggs and salt. Mix this up again. Add your buttermilk. Mix it up again. Then we're gonna do the dry ingredients. Mix your flour and your baking soda together. Make sure it's nice and airy. And so let's prepare our oil. Now our pie is almost done, but it's not close enough for me to mix everything in yet, so we're just gonna wait until the pie is 5 minutes left, so then I can pour everything together, mix it all together, then put it into my pan. By that time the pie will be done and out, and I can put the banana bread in. So until then, we'll just wait. So I do have a bit of time before the pie comes out and I put the banana bread in. So I'm also start on getting my bread mixed up. Since I'm going to use a machine, it'll be nice and quick, and I can let that rest for an hour and then put the pie in, or sorry, not the pie, the banana bread. Then by the time the banana bread's out, this will be ready to proof again, and then I can throw this in quickly, so I have everything done right away. So first, we're going to put all our dry ingredients together. Remember, this is 2 loaves. Add in our yeast. And our 12 grain. With the dry ingredients done, we're going to now put the water in, but half of it's going to be with our salt and half of it's going to be with our sugar, which is molasses in this case. Okay, so salt. So we're going to put in 150, no, we'll put 200 grams water. Okay, so then we'll let that mix. Then we'll go grab some more water for this. Okay, so 300 water. Then we'll add in our molasses. Make sure you stir these up so that all of it gets in there and there's no waste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this one with our dry ingredients, use my hands to get it all nice, then put it into my big mixer, and as it slowly mixes in the big mixer, I'm going to add in our salt water. I didn't get all of that out, so what I'm actually going to do is put our salt water into here so that I get all of it. Just make sure that I don't lose any flavor. Make sure I get all the salt. There we go. So I'm just going to mix this up with my hands till it's nice and semi-formed. Then I'm going to put it into my mixer. This way I can also get it stuck off the bottom. Any bits that are stuck off the bottom, I can work on it right here with my hands. And then we'll put it into our big mixer. So, now that our dough is in there. Just put this up. Ooh, it's nice and hard. Make sure it's on 1. Let it go for 2 seconds. Now that you know it's not going to splash at you, we can add in our salt. It's nice and semi-formed so that yeast is going. Just make sure that you have all the salt mixed in. Be very careful again with this hook. It was very dangerous. So we'll just let this mix till it's fully formed. We'll put it on setting 2 and then let it mix for 8 minutes. As you can see now that it's formed a dough, we're going to turn it off. Turn it on 2 and let it go for 8 minutes. Okay, that's 8 minutes. Yeah. Come on, why am I so weak? There we go. So we're just gonna cover this now, and then so we're just gonna cover this now. My kitchen's pretty warm, so we'll see, but I'm gonna guess probably half an hour, 45 minutes till this is done proofing. We'll work it into our shapes, let it proof again, and then put it in the oven. Okay, so the pie is just almost done. I'm just going to finish this up. Then by the time I finish this up, the pie should be coming out, so I'll pull that out and put this in. Luckily they're the same temperature, that's why I did it this way. Then after I pull out the banana bread, I'm gonna put on the rye bread. So let's start mixing again. Mix that up nicely. And then remember, baking soda, buttermilk. As soon as they touch each other, it's going. So don't do this unless you know you're almost ready. So a third at a time. Make sure you spread it out too. And slowly mix it in. Once you're almost all the way mixed in, you add in your next third. Keep going. Once you're almost mixed in again, add your last third. The last thing you're going to need to do is add the oil. But I'm going to grab this to make sure I can get all of it in there. Slowly mix that in. Be careful not to over mix this. You want to just mix this fully. Okay. Take this away. I'm going to use this to just clean around the outside and just fold that in very gently. Just folding it in. Okay. Luckily, because there's only one, I don't have to weigh it out. But remember, if you're doing multiple batches, to weigh them out so you get the same product. Pour that in. All of it in. All your dishes on one side. And then remember to get that nice crack down the middle. Grab your nice tool. Any flat surface will work. Grab some oil. Just dip it. Just dip it. And try and get as straight as possible so that it's a nice clean break. So our pie will be done like any second now. I'll just put this out of my way and we'll come back then. This oven's a bit colder than my last oven, so it's going to take a bit longer, but I can't wait for this banana bread anymore. So I'm going to just put this in right here. That will be done in about 5 minutes, and I'll take that out real quick. You want to be very quick, because with this banana bread, if you wait too long, it can collapse. So, especially at the beginning. So, you gotta be very quick and be careful with this banana bread. Okay, so here's our dough. I've punched it down already. Just gotta weigh it, cut it in half, make our 2 loaves. If you're doing this by hand, you're gonna be using flour to knead and stuff, so your weight might be slightly off from mine, but always just weigh it, and then you can cut it in half. So this is 2,005 grams, so 2,002 grams per one, and we're good to go. There we go. So that was that. Just knead it back into position so that it looks good. We'll put it onto our pan. This pan, you can see it's getting really dark. This will be the last time I can bake with it. After baking this time, I run the risk of it flaking off and entering other goods, and we don't want that, or flaking into the oven and causing a fire. So this is the last time. You probably could use this 4 more times or so, but I just don't want to take that risk, and you shouldn't either. So just make this into a nice ball. Okay. Flatten it out. Put it on your pan. Next one. Make your butt. Roll it out. We're just going to cut it. No hesitation. You get your nice cuts. And I'm going to put a warm washcloth over top of it. So we're just going to put a cloth over it. Make sure it's nice and wet. And let it proof. I've taken out the pie now. This is what you're looking for. Nice and golden brown everywhere. It's very hot still. I could have done a better job on cutting for this nice little star design. I'll have to fix that for next time. Still acceptable. Right here along this circle bit, that's where the dough is the thickest, because it's dough from the crimp and from the top, and that's just where it all meets up, and it's super thick there. Not like super thick that's inedible, but that's what's going to cook the longest. So all you want to do is look for that area. If that area is good and cooked, which I can see it is, you're good to go. I'm going to just let this cool off to the side, and we'll come back once the other things are ready. So here's banana bread. It didn't rise as nicely as I would have liked. It is nicely done, but I'll have to fix that for next time. It's still acceptable because it's still going to look nice once you cut it and stuff, but just needs a little bit of work on it. Next I'm going to put in our bread. Nice and proofed, double in size. I put it up to 450 and these are ready to go in. And we'll come back in about 25 minutes. So now that the bread's out, you hear it? It sounds like wood. Sadly, the sides touched, so these two sides kind of exploded that way. So that's not too good, but you got a nice crust, still looks good. So we got 2 nice good loaves. I have to go quickly to my appointment, and I'll come back, do my apple cages. Everything will be done. I'll take a nice picture of all of them together, and then those will be sent off to the maple syrup bush, and we'll get feedback from them. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, I'm finally back from my appointment. Now, sadly, it is nighttime now, so the lighting's gonna be a bit worse. I'm working on fixing the lighting. I might get a light above here to make it easier for me. But until then, you're gonna have to suffer with me. So, we wanna get our brown sugar cinnamon mixture first. Ready? So, for a dozen, we use 200 grams. And then cinnamon is to taste. So, depending on how much cinnamon you like, will determine how much you put in. But I like to put in a nice handful. Now remember, this is for double my recipe. My recipe is only for half dozen. Oh no, I got a hole in my bag. Oh, I'll clean this up and then we'll continue on. Sorry about that. Now, we're just gonna mash it up. Make sure there's no big clumps of brown sugar. Mix all in that cinnamon. So that's all ready. Now we're gonna move to peeling and cutting our apples in half. Then we're gonna bake the apples semi-way through, probably 25 minutes. Then we're going to work with our puff dough, get it nice and ready. Then when we're done with that, we'll take those apples out, put them in our puff dough, and put those back in. And remember, the puff dough takes 25 minutes. So when thinking about cooking an apple, it takes about an hour, hour and a bit to make it all the way to mushy. So where do you want it? I want just before mushy, so 25 minutes in the oven, 25 minutes in the puff dough, 50 minutes, we're perfect. Just what we want. We have our 6 apples. Remember, we're making a dozen. I always like to core it first. So you're just gonna do that. Takes out the whole thing. Keep a nice bowl around here so that you can just throw out all the compost. So all your peels and your, I missed a bit, and your core can go into your compost pile. Once I'm done coring, I'll start peeling. After peeling, cut them in half. And as soon as you cut them in half and peel them, you want to immediately throw them into your sugar. Because as soon as they're peeled, they're going to start to turn brown. When you have your own bakery, you can have those peeling machines, and that's way better because you peel it and cores it at the same time. You pop it out, cut it in half, throw it into your sugar. Or if you're going to do a huge batch and you don't have the same amount of bowls for everything, make sure you put it in lemon water, not too much lemon, and that will just make sure that it stays nice and white. So, we're just going to core the rest. Now we just peel them like normal. I find that getting this inside bit is a bit hard, so I like to avoid it. Then I peel everything except for those little bits right there. I then cut them all, and then when you cut them, it's very easy to peel that extra area. Again, if you have your own specific peeler that peels everything, golden. If not, I think this is the best way to do it. For speed anyways. If you're not in a rush, then don't worry about it. You might notice that I hold my peeler weird. I hold it upside down. This is just what I like to do. Hold your peeler the most comfortable way for you. The more you're in comfort, the less you're going to hurt yourself. If it's too awkward for you, like for whatever reason, don't ask me why, but this doesn't feel good to me. This does. And because of that, I never cut myself with a peeler. I have jinxed it just now though, so we'll see. Okay, so we're done peeling, other than the tops and bottoms. So just cut everything in half, be as neatly as possible cut it in half. You don't want big chunks and small chunks. You want the exact same amount. You gotta work fast. Move things out of your way. Work safely. Okay. So, you can see, all I have to do is, boom, that's it. Peeled. Peeled. But see how it's already turning brown? You gotta go quick. These are Fuji apples. I think they just work the best for this recipe. If you want to go with a more sour apple, Granny Smith's. If you want to go a bit more sweet, Red Delicious, or there's a whole bunch of different ones. But try to stick to baking apples rather than eaten apples. There is a difference. And just make sure you look up which one you want to use. And it won't be the worst thing in the world if you do use an eaten apple instead of a baking apple. It won't turn out as nicely as if you picked a baking apple. So, now that everything's out of the way, we just now mix this brown sugar on all of them. Make sure you get them nicely evenly coated. The sugar or the lemon water will stop it from browning, so depending on how fast you are, decide what you need. If you're super slow and you know you're going to be slow, take your time, put it in lemon water. If you are doing this at home, there's no reason to really rush other than you get to eat them faster. But if you are baking for a bakery, you should be fast enough to just go straight to the brown sugar. So these are all nicely coated all the way around. We're gonna now bake these for about 25 minutes at 350, and we'll come back when that's done. Okay, so let's throw these in. And quickly start working on our puff dough, because that's only 25 minutes. Our puff dough should be done by then. So I kind of semi-cheated and semi-didn't cheat. I did make this, but I did make this a while back. This is one of those great products that you can freeze because it doesn't really change the product in the end. Now, remember, these are the most delicate layers and layers. See if I can get you to see them. Come on, focus. Yeah. So you see the layers in between? You can kind of see that they ring around, ring around. Those are very delicate, and that's what you want. But you don't want to damage them. So as soon as you start ripping or anything like that, you're going to be messing up. So it's about 3/4 of my recipe per dozen apple cages. So there should be another quarter. That's why I have a half and a quarter. Because the last time I used this, I needed a half, and I had a leftover half from when I did a full dozen. So, perfect, lucky me. Next time I'll have to make it. All we're gonna do is flatten it down. Don't ever flatten it down this way. You just ruined all the layers and it won't work. So just flatten it down. We're gonna get about 16 pieces from this one and 8 pieces from this one. You need 2 pieces per cage, the top and the bottom. I used a little bit too much flour. You can see it cracking. That's from using way too much flour. Now, like some of it looks like it's cracking, but it's just the flour on top of it. As soon as that's gone, it's gonna be fine. Like that looks like cracking, but it's not. Just be very careful with how much flour you use. And be very gentle. Let it rest. Don't overwork it. Just go slow. You don't need to rush this. I know that we're on the clock because we have 25 minutes for apples, but at the same time, those apples need to cool for a bit, so we got plenty of time to get this done before we have to actually worry about it. So whenever it stops, like whenever it starts to pull back on you, like I'm pushing, push, and it slowly comes back, you need to let it rest. Now, luckily for me, I have gotten it to the right size. You want it to get it bigger because it makes it easier to work with later, but this is the smallest and it can still work. So all I'm gonna do is cut it, half, 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 and do the same thing. Do it so that, like, you know how you can do it. I wanna show you, so I'm gonna try to make it easier to see. I might not get it perfect, but you want to cut it into nice square-ish shapes. This isn't the final shape. You will be working with this again. So just make sure that they're nice and square, that you can still finish with them. They just need to rest because you're working the dough too much and it's causing the gluten to work too hard and it wants to spring back. So we'll let this rest in the fridge for like 30 seconds, or it's not seconds, 30 minutes while I work on this one. Do the same thing. Once this is all done, then we can start rolling one individual at a time. Okay? So you're gonna wanna make them as square as possible. We just took out our apples, and these weird corner pieces, now this one's a really bad one because really bad. But if you pick out these pieces, it should be fine still. However, these weird shaped ones you want for the top because you can stretch them nicely over top of everything and it doesn't have to fully encase everything. The apple needs to fit nicely on the bottom, so make sure your bottoms are nice and good. With all these little cracks and things, be very careful because you don't want to wreck your puff pastry. Anyways, back to working it out. Kind of have like just a pile like that, and you can just do that so that it's easier to roll out. Leave pile for both sides, and we'll meet you when we're done. Okay, now that we've rolled them all out, fold your tops in half and cut the design you want. I like to go 3 full and then 2 in between. So when you open it up, you got that kind of design, and that's what your top's gonna be. So just do that for the rest, and we'll come back when all that's done. We'll start putting everything together. The apple's on here, top's on top of that. Egg wash all of it, and then we'll bake it about 25 minutes. Nice beautiful apples. Get your nice bottom down. Grab your apple. Egg wash. I like to put the cinnamon for this specifically so that it looks nice. Take your top, stretch it over top, connect it nicely so you get nice and sealed. Put this on our trays, then we're going to egg wash everything afterwards. I'm only showing it over here because I want you guys to be able to see it. Normally I just work on my pans themselves, but it's easier for you guys to see. This is how I normally do it. This way I can do it all at once. Egg wash as I go. Just makes it a lot faster and simpler. You also don't dirty up your countertop this way. So I put up the oven to 400 degrees. We're gonna bake 20-25 minutes. It really depends on how thick your dough is, but it should be in that range. And it's very noticeable when you burn it. So always go further than what you think if you're worried about burning it, or not burning it, undercooking it. It's way better to undercook it than to have a burnt one. Or sorry, the other way around. It's way better to have a burnt one than an undercooked one. Undercooked ones are they're very like soft and goopy, and they're like, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. So try and avoid that and get a more cooked. You don't have to get the proper square shape, because when this bakes, it's going to get a nice shape regardless of how nice of a square you made. It gives it that rustic look, which if you don't want that look, so be it. This one will be like a perfect square, and you can buy puff pastry that come in sheets that are perfect squares where it's super easy to cut instead of making it yourself. So if you buy puff pastry that way, you can easily make the exact same shape you want. I don't mind having this different shape because I still think it looks nice either way. So I'm going to continue this way. Don't be afraid to stretch your dough. Don't be afraid. As long as you don't rip it, you're going to be golden. Even though it has like a weird shape up top, if you just stretch the sides, that weird shape kind of disappears. And it's almost square. Even though it started as a weird shape, it's almost square. Once you have the tops on, you simply just... Oh, my oven's heated up. Perfect. Perfect timing. So now you just brush this on everywhere. Gives you that nice look with the cinnamon. And it will get you that nice color as well. That nice brown color that's shiny as well. And we'll put them in. Make sure if you need time to work with it, put it back in the fridge. Like if you're taking too much time, because if you wait too long, the butter starts to melt at room temperature and will cause your dough to lose all those layers that you worked so hard to get. So make sure if you're going too slow or your hands are too hot or your area is too hot, every once in a while pop it back into the fridge so that it cools down. That'll make it a lot easier to work with and make a nicer product. Now the only thing I might want to change later in the future is the apple isn't everywhere, like right here and right here on all of them. Doesn't really have too much apple taste, so I might put a small layer of applesauce underneath to make sure that you get apple all over the place. But they're looking good, and I'm going to take a nice picture of everything at once and we finished today. Now this is how the order turned out. A few tiny mistakes, but no serious mistakes. Everything looks very good and definitely acceptable to be selling. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I even have my own website. Thank you, and have a nice day.